we've included suggestions on how to take actions on issues you care about. And we're sharing the proceeds of this book with 3 grassroots, women of color-led nonprofits: The Gathering for Justice, Sister Song Women of Color Reproductive Justice Initiative, and Indigenous Women Rise. Your purchase of this book helps reform the criminal justice system, guarantees more women access to reproductive health, and uplifts Indigenous women to organize for the betterment of their communities. Together, we marched on January 21st. Together, we march still. The moment is now. Together, we rise.
Introduction by Jamia Wilson. I'm a writer, an activist, and the executive director and publisher of the Feminist Press. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. Poet, feminist, and racial justice advocate Maya Angelou wrote these words 40 years ago, long before a group of visionary women, many of whom had not yet been born, ignited the movement we now know as the Resistance. The passion and determination of this small group brought Angelou's proclamation to life. Rise we did. On January 21st, 2017, 5 million women and their allies took to the streets around the world to stand up for their rights. This extraordinary moment had been made possible by an impassioned collective of organizers. In less than 3 months, they had done the unimaginable. Using activism as alchemy, they transformed one of the most divisive moments in American history, the 2016 election of Donald Trump, into an unprecedented movement that was both intergenerational and intersectional, embracing all aspects of its participants' identities. And the 653 marches in the United States and sister marches on all 7 continents were only the beginning. A wave of protest and activism followed the march and sustained itself through the first year of the new administration. In the days after the march, commentators mused on the scale and power of the crowds, the signs, the emotion. But the Women's March didn't just happen. A team of organizers, including the 4 co-chairs, Bob Bland, Tamika Mallory, Carmen Perez, and Linda Sarsour, plus Brianne Butler, Cassidy Findlay, Sarah Sophie Flicker, Janae Ingram, Mia Ives Rubley, Paula Mendoza, Jenny Suss, Vanessa Rubel, and many other devoted activists, worked long hours and encountered near-constant hurdles. They took cues from freedom fighters from the civil rights movement, such as Angela Davis, Dolores Huerta, and Bernice King. They adopted strategies from other movements, such as Black Lives Matter, the #NoDAPL movement, the Dreamer movement, the disability rights movement, and the anti-gun violence movement to set their own mega movement into motion. And they worked with male allies like Harry Belafonte, Ted Jackson, and Michael Skolnick, while putting women, and specifically women of color, at the center of their leadership structure. I am a woman of color. I was born in 1980 in Columbia, South Carolina, and grew up an expat in Saudi Arabia. I came from a long line of activists who made a way out of no way, and that's why I heeded the call to show up on March Day. The principles that guided the Women's March movement align deeply with my own family history of daring to resist and asserting one's humanity at all costs. My strong Black feminist father marched in the 1970s to protest the incarceration of Joanne Little, a cousin of his who came close to being executed by the state of North Carolina because she defended herself against sexual violence in a local jail after she was charged with breaking and entering. Growing up, I was fascinated by my mother's stories about her own involvement with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee and the teach-ins she participated in. I learned from her that my grandfather was what they had called a race man, an NAACP member who traveled the South with his family, organizing meetings and marches to end segregation. It was my mother who persuaded me to march, even though I was initially conflicted about participating. I felt betrayed by the 53% of white women who voted for Trump. Ultimately, it was important to me to continue the involvement of our family line, and I was encouraged by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s truth that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. The story